I am hoping we should be able to.
Yeah.
So is that a InfoSec policy that external meetings are not allowed inside the system?
Not really the preferred. I think we do have Zoom and Teams, but yeah, it's just that I was able to get through, so I'm hoping others should be able to get through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got about 8 people. I think we've shared the updates of who was accepted, who was not. So I think we're
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Rakesh.
Hey, Yatin. Hi, Anand.
Hey, Rakesh. Good evening.
Vinayak has joined. Hi,
Hi.
Vinayak.
Hi, Vinayak.
Hey, good evening. Hey, everybody. So we're waiting for Andrew and
Yeah.
right. Okay.
I think we've got about 8 of our folks have accepted. Basically, a few are out of office, but yeah,
Okay.
Andrew, and a few others have accepted. So
Sure. Maybe we'll give it a minute.
Andrew's here.
hey, Andrew.
Andrew. Oh, you're on mute, Andrew. I hear you.
Sorry. My apologies. I'm only going to be able to join for the first half an hour. I've got to call JP and Andres at 8. So
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know. My apologies for that. Okay.
No problem.
All right. I think we can get started. We're already 2 minutes over.
Paul is also joining here. Yes. Sebastian. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
I think now we can go ahead.
Sure.
Sandeep.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Divit. Hi, everybody. We did have a brief conversation about what Beacon can do and what Beacon is all about with Anand, but I would walk you through of what we are, how we do it, and what we created for our end customer. So let me just get started. And then probably you could take.
Yeah, sure.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining in. I know it's midday for some. We've just started over the day, and good morning, good evenings. Let me just start trying presenting the screen, and then we could go ahead hitting the ground from right there. Let me know when my screen is up. I will walk you through what we are.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So thanks for joining in again. My name is Sandeep. I'm a part of the growth team. Beacon itself is an AI orchestration platform very specifically built for the enterprise softwares, right? So we are a Series A funded company based out of the US and in India. It's a 60-member strong team with very predominant folks and being featured on the local and the national media outlets gives us the edge of, or in fact, serves as a proof point of what we do. With our, that's the team, Rakesh and Silas, both are and the leadership team who have collective teams of what they've been doing so far. I will walk you through the expansion of what we are, and while we are stick, we were able to classify the few of our clients into the buckets of we found a lot of use cases. I'm talking about the retail, insurtech, services, enterprise SaaS. What really done for them is help them on their real capacity. The few names that you'll be able to see here, we have public companies, we have companies working out of US, HR Tech, you see Capillary on the retail, you find Workline, HighRadius, Lenovo, Delivery. Right? So Beacon predominantly operates on 4 major engines. First one is implementation, where we orchestrate client onboarding and configuration workflows across products. With that, the support and the hypercare automation, we are not just talking about the L1s of how to, but much more complex L3 after your implementation goes live. With the product Studio, you can build and ship capable AI agents to your customers. And with the cross-system enterprise orchestration, your departments no longer work in silos, right? I'm just taking a example of an HR, finance, or procurement, or a compliance systems. You can automate workflows across these. Now, with that, I understand we from our previous discussion, you would love to have your thoughts on the SaaS. Is there any other area that we would want to briefly touch before we start talking about the implementation?
Yeah, so I mean, we're most interested in implementation. However, I wanted to get your views on so one of the concepts that we've been toying with is what we call a storefront for different agents and things like that. But that can be discussed later. Your views on that and how applicable that could be. How easy is that to roll out, things like that.
Yeah, that's the agent studio. That's the agent studio, Andrew, that you're talking about. We can have a deep dive on that later on, maybe probably in another session or if time. And today I think you are on time crunch, so maybe we can do it in another call.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. Let me walk you through what we think or what we see a typical implementation cycle looks like. Right from the design to the build, we are talking about the people and understand what we've seen for cross our clients is under the inception, you start gathering the requirements, you create a statement of work, and once that is done, you translate into mapping the requirements to the product solutions. That becomes your business requirement document under solutioning. Now, with that done, you start configurations. You set up the data, you start with the workflows, you look at your user permissions, and once you move into the testing, that's when you look for the integrations, the functionals, the UAT, and after that, if that requires you to take a sign of an end client, you move from your environments into the production under cutover, and once that is done, you move into your post, which is a final piece. You look on the white as a part of the people and the project onboarding versus what you're looking at in the green, which is the technical and onboarding and the implementation. Let me probably take a checkpoint on which of these, if I have to ask you, say on a scale of, or if you have to order from the top 3, the top 4, where do you think a lot of efforts or people are involved when I'm talking about a good enterprise?
I mean, solution mapping is definitely one, and then configuration. So
understood. Great.
I mean,
now with
testing, we're using automation. So I mean, less so, but yeah, okay.
So let's do this. Let me try and set the call. Go next. Let's talk about solution first. Then we will move into configuration. If we have time, we have 2 items to be discussed after the call. One will be the testing. We'll show you on a brief outline, and then if we have enough time again, we can talk about Agent Studio. Would that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sandeep, question.
Yeah.
I think there is a small connectivity issue at your end. Your voice is breaking up once in a while. Is it just for me or Jyoti you're facing this?
It is there, I guess. So maybe that way
Okay.
she can take
Let,
over
let me
this position.
let me take over the demo from here, Sandeep. Then, yeah, is it okay?
Yeah, please go ahead. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Let me know once everything is set, right? I'll be opening the flow for you. Thanks, Rakesh.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll start from where Sandeep has left off, and great to meet you all, gentlemen, today. So this is what Sandeep has been explaining all the way from inception to cutover and hypercare, right? So we are looking at solutioning, configuration, data migration, all of this across this life cycle. So let me just map it out on how exactly we do this. So the first steps for this is we take a demo account of your product, and we map every single screen and the actions that are possible in each screen, and also the server calls that are happening behind those actions. And with that, we build a knowledge graph of your modules and module by module and overall at an entire product level. So if you look at this is how the knowledge graph would look like, where you can see this is a knowledge graph of Darwinbox, when we have done a POC for them a while ago, right? So this is one specific module's knowledge graph. This is how it would look like, where if you look at the nodes, you see the dependencies and you see the individual node level data like the field information, the server call information, descriptions, validations, and all of that are getting captured. So essentially, this knowledge graph is a combination of the product and the different entities, the relations between the entities, and the server calls that are supporting those entities to load onto the front-end application. And it also captures the process knowledge as well as the context layer. So once this knowledge graph is set up, then we move to the building the agents, where you can see it's a multi-agent orchestration layer. So all the server calls that we by network monitoring when we train Beacon on your product, those becomes these tools. So we don't need you to explicitly give us APIs or MCP layers to start building the agents. We take it from your existing product itself directly by doing network monitoring. Right?
Sorry,
So
what monitoring?
network monitoring.
Okay.
So basically, let's say in a given screen, if there are 3 actions that are happening, and when those actions are happening, whatever be the network log that is executing during the time, we kind of do a reverse proxy of that and create that as an agentic tool. So we don't need like an explicit APIs. If your product is working on top of existing server calls, it could be server-side rendered pages, it could be REST APIs, SOAP APIs. We create those as agentic tools automatically.
Okay.
So that kind of does a huge heavy lift on making your product AI ready, instead of first going into a transformation project where you start building these APIs or access control layers to let the agents start even working together. So that's a core differentiator between Beacon and any other agentic platforms that are out there. That if you look at Google's agent development kit, or any of even N8N or Make.io or any of these agentic platforms, the first thing you need to do is expose your APIs to them and build an access control layer around that for the agents to perform. Instead, what Beacon would do is Beacon need not need any of these explicit APIs. We are taking the APIs from your existing product, and during the execution, we are using your current logged in user's authorization itself to execute those APIs. So that way, if the user is not supposed to perform an action, even Beacon's agent will not be able to perform that action because it's inheriting your existing security controls. So that's why enterprises love us for all the security and governance layer that we inherit from your existing system itself.
Okay, so this is completely dependent on pre-existing APIs then, because in some instances, we don't have pre-existing APIs. Those would need to be built. So that would need to be something that we would work. I mean, our dev team would need to work to get those built before we can progress. Is that what I'm hearing?
Good point. So whatever I just mentioned, that's an advantage, but it's not a limitation. So
Okay.
that means if you have, let's say, APIs that are outside your product or that are not yet built, it need not be the case where you have to build it separately and then launch it in your product and then give it to us. We can directly connect to the APIs or other systems that are outside your product as well seamlessly. But as an advantage, we prefer starting with whatever you already have so that you have a head start. And whatever you do not have, you can plug those in as and when you are ready with those. But you don't need to go through the route of first enabling it into the product and then let Beacon look into it. If you have standalone APIs that you want to directly connect to, you can feel free to connect those as tools directly.
Okay.
Yeah, that also includes direct data lake or any of the other system access as well. So even if you do not have APIs, you can expose Beacon onto your current data lakes with read-only access so that it can pull the information and do all of that. And because Beacon orchestration layer is going to get deployed on your servers, none of this data goes outside your servers. And then you have these connectors. These connectors are basically the third-party connectors. It could be Salesforce, SAP, or even like the data lake connectors, etc. that are there. So any other CRM or ERP system connectors are these external connectors. And then you have these knowledge layers, the context layers. You can see the nodes and knowledge base that are there. Those are coming from the knowledge graph, or you can create standalone context layers as well. So this is what the setup would look like before we start the actual implementation automation. And then
so just if I could just ask a question, sorry to interrupt you. So this is on the premises that your knowledge graph is as accurate as possible. If that is flawed, it means everything else is flawed. Is that a correct statement?
So any agent is as good as the tool and the context that it has. So if you're saying the context and the tools are flawed, then the agent will be flawed. I mean, it's a directly proportional relation to them.
Okay.
But again, so there are many checks and fails, and there is a human in the loop reviews, the bunch of guardrails that are in place to help you, deploy with confidence. So we're going to talk about that shortly.
Okay.
All right. So just give me a moment. I'll just plug in my charger, please. Yeah. So now let's move forward with actual project implementation. So let's say I think you remember this flow of the life cycle that we discussed. So let me map that flow into how actual implementation would look like, right? So here it starts with intake sessions, which is essentially inception. And here in inception, what's happening is you can upload any of your previous pre-sales or sales recordings as well, or you can connect Beacon to a live meeting, or you can even connect Beacon to your existing note takers as well, right? So once you do that, Beacon takes the context of these conversations, and based upon the product and the process context it already has, it's building a detailed requirement specification list based upon these conversations. And this is not a one conversation to one requirement spec. It's going to be multiple conversations, multiple sessions, and it keeps getting consolidated overall, right? So this is how the requirement specifications are going to get generated. So if you look at this, essentially there is one product and process context layer. That's the knowledge graph or the standalone context layers that you can create. And second, you have client-specific context that is being built by these sessions, right? And you can also share these to the clients directly as well with all these spec details. And you can generate a consolidated spec, and you can see all the specs that are generated across the sessions as well. And once this requirement specifications are in place, then starts the blueprint phase, where we are translating this requirements into your product context. So how to configure or set up these things in the product. This is essentially the design phase. how the current client's process is, and how your product has to support their current process, the process mapping. So all of that kind of gets mapped in the blueprint phase. And along with this blueprint, we also have this data collection templates. So you can upload your existing data collection templates if you have already, and Beacon can work on top of them, or it can create and generate the data collection templates for the requirements that the client is asking about. And generally it's a hybrid, like it works, whatever that you already have, it takes that and it builds new data collection templates as well to be able to collect from the clients. And here you can even enable a customer agent where it can show that it needs this X amount of data and the immediate actions. And whenever they upload this data into that agent, you'll be able to see that any kind of validations, you'd be able to see those things over here. It also talks about the things that are auto fixable. So if you click on apply auto corrections, it auto fixes those things as well, right? So this helps in reducing the back and forth between client and you to validate the preliminary data checks. Of course, the detailed data ingestion has more complex layers to it that will come in the cutover stage. We will discuss it shortly. But these are like preliminary checks that, okay, we are missing this data, or this format is incorrect, but I can update the format to something else, things like that, right? Before we move to the configuration, let me show you how this would look like on a live project. This is what we have done for Guidewire. So you can see that the one on the right side corner is Beacon, and we have selected a live meeting that is happening, and Beacon is listening to that in another tab. And once it finishes the conversation, you can see this summarizing all of that, and at the same time, it's building a spec document based upon the conversation and the Guidewire knowledge that we already have. So you can see it's talking about the high-level business requirements and the detailed functional requirements. You can see the field-level specifications, the descriptions, the display conditions, the validations, all of that. And then if you move forward, you would see the data model requirements, UI UX requirements, validation rules, business logic, permission matrices, reporting requirements, and so on and so forth, right? So this is how the real-time execution would look like. Yes, please. Yeah, so we will share it across after the call. Okay, so that's how the first phase looks like, and then we move to the configuration. So in configuration, so whatever we have finalized as blueprint that to go ahead and implement it. Before even implementing, Beacon generates a pre-config report so that you can actually look at the final configurations that are going to get created. And there's a human in the loop who can make any changes that are needed to this, and then they can move it to the actual configuration. So Beacon will go and do the actual configuration. It's going to set up the workflows, the permissions, the settings, the integrations, and all of that. And then it generates the post-config report once the configuration is done. You can see the system references that it is able to pull out against these configurations. And whatever it has done, it generates a detailed agent execution trace so that you have a full-length audit trail of the exact things that Beacon has done. So even if some configuration is not done correctly, you know whether it is because the requirement specification itself is wrong, or a API has misbehaved, or there's some other issue, you'd be able to clearly know it from here, right? And to show you a quick example on this, this is HighRadius. They are also a treasury management platform. They are into AR, AP, and deductions, order to cash workflows. So you can see in this example, we have this HighRadius assistant is Beacon, and we have taken this as a one of these agents that is executing here is creating this eligibility filters, and they have uploaded their data collection template, and it is acting on top of it. And you can see as soon as I refresh the dashboard, it is able to show the results. And then it is moving ahead and creating the customer groups. And in creating the customer groups, it is started with one by one. You can see it has created Costco, then Walmart, and yeah, so on and so forth. And after creating these customer groups, it started to create action codes. And post these action codes, it is moving on with the reason code setup. And post the reason codes, it is doing the root cause mappings of it. And then finally, it is landing onto the bulk enrichment rule setup. So you can see it is just wrapping up the root cause mappings. And once this is done, you can see the data that is getting reflected in the dashboard in real time. And the final step is the enrichment rule setup. And here it's a bulk data processing layer. So you can see it is doing batch-wise data processing. And wherever there is an issue, it's trying to figure out with a different approach, and it's moving forward with that. So finally, you can see it is summarizing that 188 rules have been successfully created across 17 different customer entities in 27 batches. So I know someone has just asked for white paper. This is actually a live example. This has reduced 88% of their module setup time for this specific module itself. So there are many such cases. We'll share that excerpt shortly after the call, but this is a live example. Everything that we are showing you, these are like actual live clients that we have, but these are POC demos because the production demos we are not authorized to share. Yeah, and we have more use cases, but I'll just quickly show this and then move forward with testing, given that Andrew's time is running out. So this is Darwinbox, where we are setting up a Leaf module. You have seen the Leaf module knowledge graph already. So as soon as we uploaded enterprise or the company's org policy, Leaf policy, it is going through that. It's an unstructured document. It is going through that, and it is looking at what all needs to be done, and it is highlighting some of the pre-checks that needs to be taken care of, and it's waiting for the user consent. Once the user has given the consent, it is doing the pre-validations, and wherever it felt there is an ambiguity, it's going to ask for the user consent. So here you can see it is saying that there are 3 different ways to do this. Which one would you want me to go ahead? And the moment I give an option to move forward, it's going to execute that. And this is what I meant by human in the loop, so that it's a very transparent approach. It's not like the agent is just going and updating the records by itself or setting up the workflows by itself. It's going to first lay out a plan, and you get to see the plan. And post doing that execution, it is going to also give you the post configuration report, so you can actually validate that it has actually been done. And after that, it's going to do testing and do a UAT report as well. So there are like multiple layers in which it validates itself to ensure that whatever it is doing is working fine. So you can see this is actually a post config report as soon as it has done the configuration. And coming to the testing, so here there are two kinds of testing. One, we can use your existing master test library, and we contextualize the test library to this specific tenant and execute those. And you can see the agent trace of that execution over here. And on top of it, you also can see the custom test cases that Beacon has generated, which are not part of the master test case library, because this client requirement is not yet fully taken care in the master test case library. Then it is generating few things that are outside the purview of the current test library as well, and executes those as well. And wherever there are failures, it explains the possible reasons and the resolutions, and you can retrigger configuration from here itself. And if there are negative test cases, you will also see that it's an expected behavior, nothing to worry about. Right, so this is how it will generate the test report, and you can download this UAT report and share it with the clients as well. And then you go to the cutover or the data migration stage, where from the source to destination systems or from exports to imports, Beacon will help you with the field level data mapping. You can see the data mapping here and the optionality details here. And it also generates this detailed transformation function so that you get to know how exactly it is going to transform that mappings and consolidation or the expansion of the columns. All of that you can see it over here. And any other validation rules or lookups, all of that it will explain here. And then it does the actual data ingestion, where you can see it is going through the 5-step process: extraction, validation, transformation, lookup, and the loading. And here you can see for every record, you'll get to see the 5 different stages, what's the status of it. Wherever there are failures, you get to know the exact stage where it actually failed, and you can retry over here or retry all failures at once. And you can also export this report for your records or for your clients' reports. So this is how we, I think we're just out of time for Andrew, but I think he's left, is it? Okay, but this is how we consolidate the end-to-end implementation lifecycle through Beacon. I know we haven't touched base on the hypercare, but I know it's a lot more to digest as well. So we'd like to take a pause and understand if you have any queries.
Rakesh, just a question on configuration agent, right? So I mean, some of our products basically, you have to configure them from the UI, right? Some products we basically, and portion of that configuration comes as part of the config file, right? Not all of them have APIs where you can actually execute and at the end of the day, get the right configured data into the system. So how do you handle instances where you have to configure through a UI? And some of these are on-prem implementations. So just wanted to understand the different ways of configuring the system.
When you're saying you have to configure it through the UI, you mean, but at the end of, let's say I have saved that configuration in the UI, it's essentially triggering a server call to your servers to store that config, right?
Yes, I mean, we may not have some of those, right? So at the end of the day, if it creates a config file, and then you can run an agent or any kind of a program to ingest that that data into the system. That's one way of doing it, but not all of our products basically are able to do that, right? So once we understand the config parameters, the process, the workflows, etc., you then need to configure it manually in some cases. So I mean, those instances obviously it needs an RPA kind of an agent, I guess, to do it.
We have UI level orchestration as well. Although the server call or the API orchestration is much more efficient and faster, as you know. But we also do the UI level orchestration as well. So let me just show you maybe a quick example on, I think, as far as I remember, we have done that for Walmart a while ago. So let me just show it. Yeah, so you can see this is the Copilot that we have built for them, and so the user is uploading certain data, and they're uploading it onto Beacon's Copilot, but it's doing all the validation, everything over here. But you can see on the background, it's actually uploading that files through the UI. You can see these files, and you can see the loader actually getting deflected, right? So that's because Beacon is actually doing the UI action in the background.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Rakesh,
Yes,
yeah.
Okay, there are obviously certain applications where we may kind of do a lot of config data gathering in spreadsheets or specific templates that we use, and then it can be a combination of, like Vinayak was saying, direct upload, not through an API but through specific means that the application is allowing us to do, either through a data loader or a specific layer that we have around the application, not necessarily API. Just wanted to understand if you've come across these scenarios where it could be a combination of uploading some templates and then subsequently validating through the UI and fixing any gaps that you may have.
No, actually, that happens in a similar way, because let me just find out how to articulate it better. So simple terms, if a human is able to do it right now, Beacon will be able to simulate the same action. It could be a UI action, or it could be a server call that is triggering behind the UI action. But if right now it is humanly possible, then we would be able to simulate the same.
Okay, got it. Yep.
So let me also see if one more demo might help you look at that. So for example, there is this employee bulk validation that we have done for Keka. So let's say here I'm uploading some data, and you can see on the Beacon side, we are initiating the onboarding and we're saying validate and map. In fact, what it is actually doing is on the background, there is no way directly to do this because it's a stepper process. This is a multi-step process. So you can see in the background, selecting the drop-down, mapping those drop-downs, all of that is actually being done by Beacon. That's why you are seeing the cursor is not being moved. This is my cursor, but even in the video cursor, you see the cursor is kind of paused here, right? So you can see that's happening. So this is specifically like the data import templates approach that they are also doing, because the final API is getting triggered only of the preview data and everything is submitted. So till then, there is no API play at all, right? So in this case, we are going through the files, validating those files, generating any kind of conversions as needed, and then we are executing this via UI till the API stage comes up.
Okay. I think Ahmed had a question.
Yeah,
Yes,
hi. I just had a quick question around using Beacon as a software deployment tool. So what sort of functionality does it have to deploy a set of MSIs to roll out various AER components and post-deployment configure them accordingly? Sort of like, what would be achieved by Ansible, that sort of automated but smarter deployment mechanisms.
So just summarizing what I just understood, you're asking if Beacon can help in automating the deployments. Is it what you're asking?
Essentially, yes. Sort of like a more efficient version of an Ansible deployment process. So we have a set of MSIs for the different adaptive enterprise risk tools, deploying those and performing then the subsequent configuration. Thus far, I guess what I've been seeing is fantastic integration with sort of web-based applications. But in terms of automated deployments, is that something within the Beacon suite?
No, unfortunately, we are sticking to the application layer. If you're looking for some help on the CI/CD or any kind of deployment automation where we have to do on top of, as you mentioned, and the other tools that you are looking at, that does not really come into our purview because we are kind of focused mostly on the application layer of things. So they're not the technical deployments piece, because that's because, as you know, that's more of a horizontal use case. The tools would always behave the same way. It's an automation of the deployment lifecycle, whereas this is more of a vertical use case where every client is different and your product has to be mapped to that client's requirements. So we are more onto this side of it, not on the other side of it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Rakesh, what's the underlying LLM or SLM that you use? Any additional license?
We are actually agnostic to LLM models, but let me just quickly spin up an architecture diagram for your reference. Yeah. So Beacon sits on the application layer, the SDK. We can also function from the backend as well. Then you have to use our backend SDK, but most of the times we sit on the front end itself. And any kind of server calls that are happening, we are doing it through the front end layer. It could be a server call, it could be UI action. Everything happens through the front end layer. And the SDK communicates to our orchestration layer, where we have multiple internal layers: the core orchestration and the metadata layer, agentic layer, and the context enrichment layer. And across these layers, we use multiple models, and we also support bring your own model. So if you have your own Cloud Enterprise license or OpenAI Enterprise license, you can plug it there as well. And we also support any kind of native or custom models that you want to deploy, like SLMs or open source LLM models as well. Overall, we are agnostic to models. Of course, we are going to recommend which model works best for your use case. We'll show you the benchmarking and all of that. But essentially, it's your choice on which model that you want to go ahead with. By default, we use our enterprise license keys, and you're free to change it to yours as well.
Wonderful.
That's about that. Would you want me to show you the hypercare part of it, the support troubleshooting? Sure. Let me just show you the support one. I think we all agree that agents are now more than capable of reading a knowledge base and spitting out answers. So I'm not even showing you the demo. So I'm only focusing on L2, L3 level troubleshooting of issues. So this is again one of the live tickets of the clients where their employee is not able to see Independence Day in the list of holidays, and this is how Beacon has responded to it. So it is starting to debug that list of holidays in the system and check the assignments of the holiday and get the employee details, their assignments, and also any overlapping holidays for the same date. Now it is actually fetching the list of holidays, verified that the holiday is present in 2024. And now it is checking the assignments of the holiday. And it got the holiday assignment mapped to Los Angeles Journal Office Business Unit. Now it is fetching the employee details. It got the employee as Jaydeep and they're mapped to Vietnam Business Unit. So finally, it came to a conclusion that because of business unit mismatch, they're not able to see this holiday in the holiday list, right? So it kind of invoked about 11 to 12 server calls in the background, and it verified the audit logs, it verified the workflows and the configurations around it, and then it came to this conclusion, right? So this is how deep it would be able to go and troubleshoot issues, not just simple knowledge based answer. Of course, that's anywhere there, that's going to come by default, but this depth at which we can handle the support automation. So with that, I think we are more or less clear, and we also support the full length agent development lifecycle. So every time your product gets updated, there is a regression that goes through, which is backed by LLM evals. So we are not just checking whether it is executing, but we are also checking the entire agent trace, whether it is matching with the past executions or not. And we also have tool sanity. So this will run and tell you if any of the APIs or the server calls got modified or the UI actions got modified, so that these tools might break, which might break the entire agent as well. And then we also have versioning and segmentation, so you can actually do a similar development lifecycle to GitHub, where you can actually create different versions, branching and merging of those branches and all of that. And then there is segmentation, so basically you can launch specific agents to specific clienteles, specific geographical regions, all of that as well. So it has like the full-blown life cycle of it. And you already saw the agent trace, which is essentially the telemetry of it. So every execution that we do, there is a detailed telemetry that is mapped to it, so you get to see the transparent execution of how the agent is behaving. So with that, I think we are more or less through the demo and product. Would love to discuss how you see the synergies, and I think we also want to just highlight one piece before we pass the buck. So the way we operate is we do a POC before we sign any contract. Without POC, we don't sign the contract. It helps in two ways. One, it helps in our understanding of the complexity of your product and the process. And second, it also helps you to see that Beacon is actually working on your system, right? So the typical ask for that is a demo account of your product, and you need to choose a specific workflow or a module or a submodule to set up, and then give us an anonymized client requirement for that module or a submodule, and then the ideal outcome against that. So then we train Beacon on this demo instance, input this client requirement, benchmark it against the ideal outcome, and show you the results in 7 days. So as soon as we get the demo instance access and this sample details that we need, we go through them and we come back with our research in 24 to 48 hours, set up a 30-minute POC kickoff session, align on the success criteria, and then we move ahead with the actual implementation of the POC and show you the live execution of it in 7 to 10 days max. So this is the typical process that we follow.
So Rakesh, do you want to talk about the learning methodology? I mean, how does it improve the confidence levels, and what kind of a training does it continuously have?
Yeah, so there are 3 layers of learning. Number one is where we are just doing like the product scraping, like different screens and actions in each screen and the server calls monitoring and all of that. Second layer is where we do a quick 2-3 minute recordings of each flow and the stuff screens. So we analyze frame by frame, because when we are doing the scraping, certain elements don't render and all of that, would result in a loss of context. So the videos will help us move forward. So both the first and second layers is something that we will only execute and will train. The third layer is where a lot of this knowledge is also not part of the product. It's generally outside the product. You only have the context, like there is some tribal knowledge or it's scattered across some process documents, etc. So we do workshops with your team to impart the knowledge onto this, and then we strengthen the overall layer. So this is the initial setup we're talking about. And then from there, our sandbox will be mapped to your UAT. So every time you have a new product release or you have a new process change, so first we run this regressions and sanities. So that will help us understand what has changed, and we do the retraining based upon it. So this is typically the flow.
What's your pricing and licensing model?
So our pricing model is fairly flat. So there is a one-time setup and the training cost, and then there is an enterprise platform license, which gives you like unlimited users, unlimited agents, etc. But the platform license comes with an FUP limit of number of implementations you can do. Normally, we cater your current number of implementations that you're already doing per year, and we also add a buffer to it. And if you cross that FUP, either you can plug your own model and pay for your tokens yourself, or you can pay us whether by 1 million tokens or for implementation. So either ways you can take it forward. But normally we bake in good amount of FUP into the platform license itself so that it covers your usual business scale. We do a detailed ROI workshop with you before we even quote something to you, because at the end it should make sense to you and us both. So.
What's a typical implementation timeline? I mean, this one is something that we run for every implementation, right? So typically we know how much time it takes when we have to do during our normal implementations. So if you have to compare that against what you do, if you have to use Beacon. So typically, again, I understand it depends on the complexity of the implementations, etc. But I mean, typically, what's the end of timeline?
The averages across clients, we have had splendid results, but on contract or on like face value, we commit to at least 30% improvement in the efficiency.
About 30%.
If you're doing it like 3 months, then you should be able to do it in 2 months.
Okay. So if our implementations end to end take 3 months, what you're saying is with Beacon, it should take about 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because frankly speaking, the impact of Beacon across different stages is going to be different, right? So for example, if you take configuration, testing, data migration, you would see the highest impact. You would see almost like 60 to 80% of compression of timelines there. But if you look at inception, solutioning, these are all, thanks Andrew. So these are all mostly people dependent as well. I mean, although you get the specs ready, they have to review, your client has to review, come back and close it. So there you would see only 20-25% of contraction of the timelines. So when you run the entire implementation, it kind of averages out and comes down to like 30-40% in general. The ones that are more objective in nature, less people dependent, gets automated most of it. The ones where things are subjective and people heavy, there it kinds of does a like 20-25% reduction.
You talked about the traceability and all of that, right? So if it configures a certain way, because some of these are, let's say very deep calculations and all of that. So if we have to go back and check, on what basis did it configure a certain way? So what's the traceability for this?
For every single execution, you would see the very detailed trace. I mean, there is no execution that would happen without a trace. So I think some of this we have seen. Let's say here you would see, I mean, flat trace, graphical trace, whatever you want. But here you would see very clear-cut way of what exactly has been configured and what's the response you have gotten, what's the request that went, the function call executed. So it's a very, I mean, there is no single thing that gets hidden from the actual execution. So you might even miss certain things when a human does it because you don't know what he thought and did it. But when Beacon does it, you even know that what exactly the thought process behind doing the system. And this is something that will happen across, not just for a configuration, even for testing. Whenever we are saying, okay, this test case has passed or failed, you will see that very clearly, like this is a sample data I've taken, this is a response I've gotten, and these are the validations I've checked, and these are the assertions that I have passed. That's the reason I'm passing this as marking this test case as passed. So that depth is that's what actually it brings up, right? It democratizes this whole execution. So there is no more blame game on tech or humans or anyone. Everything becomes much transparent. So when things become this transparent, this becomes measurable, and when things become measurable, they get improved. So that's the normal logic.
Got it. So as a next step, you suggested that a recommended next step would be a POC.
Yeah. So we sign an NDA. I don't think there's an NDA that is signed. So typically we prefer the client sending the NDA because that way your legal need not go through any process. And then we take this demo account and you need to give us that sample workflow or a module that you want to try this upon. And the sample requirement and outcome, we are going to loop in our PCS team, which is our product and client success team. So they are going to walk you through the entire expectation. And of course, Sandeep is going to be there orchestrating this whole thing end to end. Sandeep will be the single point of contact for the entire execution. He leads our entire India growth charter. So yeah, that's about it. And we can do the ROI analysis before or after the POC. But it's up to you how comfortable you are with this. If you wish to do an ROI analysis, we have a standard survey that we send. It has about 13 questions. Once you finish that, you get to see the, as I said, the phase-wise efficiencies and what is it that going to be the cost savings and what is the opportunity that you get opened up. So all of that will come in the ROI analysis. So we generally recommend it doing before the POC, but if you're confident you have good amount of budget carved out for the investment, so we can then talk about the ROI once you see the results. Generally, the ROI before the POC is where people have some budget constraints and we need to work out on a thin line of budget. But if you have a decent budget, then I think we can go without ROI workshop as well as the POC. It depends on your own org priorities.
Okay, I think this was very helpful. Thanks so much for taking the time and showing us the demo. Is there any documentation you can share with us?
I would follow with all the documentation, at least with a summary of what we had spoken on today's call, Vinayak, along with the videos that were referenced in the demo. That could give us enough material if somebody has missed out watching on it. It would be a good catch up for that.
Yeah. Do you want us to share this recording with you, Vinayak? This specific meeting recording?
Sure, go ahead and share it because I know a few of them dropped off early. If they want to catch up on some of the things, I think it'll be helpful.
Sure.
Wonderful. I think this was good. If you can share that, we'll circle back on the next steps. We'll take it from there.
Sure. Thanks, Vinayak. Thanks for your time, and thanks, Anand, for helping this orchestration.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinayak. Thanks, Anand.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.